What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Who Gives a Dram, and on this week's episode, we are going to be reviewing a bottle of MICHTER'S Single Barrel Straight Rye Whiskey. All right, everyone, what's going on? Episode 23. We're on the Michael Jordan episode. It's pretty cool. Hope everyone's doing all right. Hope everyone's having a good week. I am your host, Connor, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Who Gives a Dram, a podcast where we drink and review whiskey, no matter how stupid I sound. But again, thanks for checking out the episode this week. A few quick shout outs before I get into the review. I want to give a shout out to Snoot Glass, the glassware that I use here on the podcast. Great people over at Snoot. I love their aluminum tumbler glasses here. They're so sturdy, and they're just the best whiskey glass, I think, especially for the summertime coming up with bonfires and outdoor events. This is what you want to be drinking whiskey out of. And if you go to www.snootglass.com and put in my promo code WGAD20, then you'll get 20% off your entire order, the entire thing. So that's www.snootglass.com. Put in my promo code WGAD20. That's like Who Gives a Dram 20, WGAD20 for 20% off your entire order. And I also want to give a quick shout out to our one of our partners, the GrapeVine Media. Just go over, check out the website, www.thegrapevinemedia.com. Bunch of cool stuff happening over there. And also, I got in contact with a podcast on Instagram. They're called the Chill Filtered Podcast, another whiskey podcast, obviously. And they shouted me out on their podcast, so I want to do the favor right back at them. Two great guys over there, Cole and Robbie, and they know a lot about whiskey. They have some very entertaining banter back and forth with each other, and they sure know a hell of a lot about whiskey, and they have some great tasting notes. They do some great reviews, and just an overall great show. So their Instagram handle is @ChillFilteredPodcast. You should absolutely go give them a follow. I think they're fantastic, and they seem like they're two good dudes. And who knows? Maybe we'll team up one of these days, and we'll bring you a joint podcast together. So that's @ChillFilteredPodcast, and give them a follow. Tell them that Who Gives a Dram sent you, and check them out. But anyways, let's get into the episode. Let's get into the review. It's episode 23. We got 23 episodes down, and I don't have a whole lot to talk about besides drinking whiskey this week. As you can see, I've got a fairly new setup here. It's the same studio. I just changed up the angle a little bit. I made the backdrop a little different, and I like it a bit better, so I'm going to keep on doing it. I think change is good. Change is good. So I might have 10 different backdrops before I find the one that's going to fit. But for right now, I like this. And if you can't see it, then you should definitely go on my YouTube and subscribe and watch the video podcast if you're just listening. We're doing MICHTER'S Rye Whiskey today. That's the whiskey we're doing. Some facts before we get into the pour. It is, and I got them written down because I for sure was not going to remember them. It is bottled at 42.4%, 84.8 proof. So it's a fairly tame pour, nothing overpowering, especially for a rye. Ryes are typically bottled fairly young. They typically don't age ryes as long as bourbons and scotches. So that doesn't surprise me that the proof's a little down there, but there are some, quality barrel strength ryes. So that's not an overarching, tone for ryes that they're young, so they're low in proof. There are some hot rye whiskeys out there. The first one that comes to mind, and one that I'll do on the podcast here soon, is a Peerless barrel strength rye whiskey. That's like, I want to say 120 proof, around there. maybe, but that's a great rye whiskey. It's a great barrel strength rye whiskey. If you have the opportunity to check that out, I definitely would. But yeah, this is 42.4%. For the whiskey nerds out there, because it is a single barrel, this particular bottle is number 20J2354. That's the actual bottle this is coming from. So my MICHTER'S rye might taste a little bit different than your MICHTER'S rye because it's coming from a single barrel. That's the definition of single barrel. It is a whiskey taken from one particular barrel based on the master distiller's taste and what he thinks is the correct barrel for that bottle. I don't think there's much more that goes into it than that, but there is no age statement on this whiskey, which means that they don't tell you exactly how old it is. From what I understand, and I don't know if this is true now, but the research I've done is MICHTER'S, they have their own bottling facility, but they are a sourced whiskey. Now, I could be wrong. They could be distilling their own whiskey now, but a sourced whiskey is essentially a company pulls different whiskeys from multiple different locations, and they combine it into their own, brand, into their own whiskey. Last I knew, that's what MICHTER'S did. I could be wrong though. I don't want to say that for fact, so don't quote me on that if I'm wrong. And that's just the last that I heard about that. Typical MSRP for MICHTER'S is right around what I can see, like $35-$40. That's around me. That's kind of the average on Google, and I'm sure that it goes for much more in different parts of the country. Not only different parts of the country, but different parts of the world. I'm sure that this bottle goes for a lot more than $35 to $40, but I think that's what I paid for this. I don't really remember. But I'm going to uncork it now. We're going to pour a little bit out. Before we get into the whiskey, how's everyone's week going? I'm feeling a little tired this week. I'm starting to get back into the gym, so I'm a bit beat up, my body. Nobody ever beats me up. Let's get that straight. I'll fight to the death. I've been known to whip out a roundhouse kick or two. So no one's gonna beat me up, but my body's a little beat up. Like when you're just moving around a lot, you get back into lifting. I look at a computer screen all day at work now, so like I don't know. My brain is tired at the end of the day, and then I make my body tired after that. So that's kind of where my head's at right now. Last week I did the podcast right after a workout. Same thing this week. So I mean, it is what it is. That's life, but what are you going to do? You got to work out, you got to work out. It is unbelievable how much better you feel when you are training, whether you're training CrossFit, powerlifting, bodybuilding, hypertrophy, marathon running, sprinting, distance running, a particular sport. If you just get outside and move, you feel so much better. It's ridiculous how much better you feel. And honestly, if you work out, in my head, I deserve whiskey that much more. So I feel a little bit better drinking this on a Monday night when I'm recording this. So, but we'll get right into the review. So I had old tasting notes from this bottle that I took around Christmas time. So I am going to compare and contrast with that. I know typically I kind of go right off the whim, but I just feel like my palate might not be there tonight just because I'm tired and just because, I just kind of had dinner a little bit, not very long ago. So I mean, that's not cheating. I'm gonna give you my unfiltered opinion on it. Ooh, do my little happy dance. I've always loved MICHTER'S rye whiskey. I think it's such a different rye because it's not spicy. There's a bit of a spice on it. I get like a little bit of like a cinnamon right on the nose. At least tonight I do. And this I've had time to let this bottle sit, and it's been sitting opened for a few months now, so it's definitely had time to rest. It's definitely coming into its full flavor potential. I get like cinnamon candy from this nose. Kind of like a hot tamale, or what's that other cinnamon candy? The one that's disgusting. Is it a hot tamale? Man, I don't remember. I remember just having a cinnamon candy when I was younger, and I almost threw up because it was so bad. But I don't remember the name of it. But this also, I get like, don't get a lot of oak on it. I get like a cinnamony sweetness, and which makes sense. That kind of spicy sweetness per se, because it's a rye, so it's gonna be a bit spicier. But it's not overly spiced. Doesn't have an overly powerful rye spice to it, which I always enjoy. I mean, I enjoy bourbon the most. I don't think anyone's surprised when I say that, because I've said it 100 times on the podcast. So the sweet and vanilla, honey, sugary flavors in whiskey, I always gravitate towards. But not. I mean, a good rye whiskey is a good rye whiskey. I'm not going to turn it down. But I remember the first time I had this, I was very surprised at how sweet this whiskey was. And that's what I'm getting. I'm getting cinnamon sugar on the nose. There's not a lot, honestly. There's really not a lot to it. It's not very in-depth on the nose. Maybe a little bit of dark fruit in there, but mainly cinnamon sugar. And, that's really it. What did I write down? Let's see. I'm going to cover up the palate so I don't look at that part. Oak, citrus, vanilla, candy, spice, dark fruit. Okay. I don't get the oak this time. Don't get the citrus. I get the vanilla, the candy, the spice, and the dark fruit. So I'm 4 for 6. Not bad. I probably wrote down some of that too based on what the internet said as well, so I could kind of ignite my mind and see what I was supposed to smell. But yeah, this MICHTER'S is a cinnamon candy, cinnamon sugar forward nose, if you're gonna compare it to something, in my opinion. So let's get into the tasting. I want to drink whiskey so bad right now. So Shalanta, thanks for tuning into the Michael Jordan episode. Let's drink some whiskey. Oh yeah, it goes down super smooth. You can definitely tell that that's a lighter whiskey, and that's a lot of vanilla. Not a whole lot of spice. I'm getting vanilla. I'm getting bourbon notes on it. Maybe that's why I like this rye so much, because it is so reminiscent to bourbon. I'm getting vanilla and honey, a little bit of rye spice on the back end, and not a big finish on that first sip. By the way, I don't know if can you see my candle? I lit a candle, man. This is like this might as well be called the sexy podcast, man. I got the candle lit. I'm drinking some whiskey. We got the ambiance in the room now. I played around with the lights. Even though you can probably see my O-ring light in my glasses, I don't care. Man, I'm going to call this the sexy podcast. I say this all while I'm sitting here by myself. So if you feel bad for me, don't, because I do this all the time. That's the benefit of living by yourself. You can say whatever you want, and no one can ever make fun of you, because you're by yourself. So, food for thought if you're looking at getting your own place. I recommend it. Let's take another sip, because I don't remember what I was saying. Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting a sweetness forward palate to it. Nothing totally robust. Nothing is popping out. If anything's popping out, it's that sugary sweetness that I'm getting. Other than that, man, nothing overly complex. Nothing totally rememberable. But I do like this bottle. I do like this bottle. I think this will be a bottle that I continue to purchase once I run out. I don't have too many ryes on my whiskey shelf, and you got a little hint of my whiskey shelf right now. There's not too many ryes on there. But that being said, I will keep this rye on my shelf. I will continue to buy it. There's something to be said that this is the whiskey we drank on the Sexy podcast, so maybe it's a sexy whiskey. I don't know. I mean, it tastes good. It tastes sweet. It tastes like, like a candy treat, but with a little bit of spice on the end. What did I write down? The palate is rye, spice, citrus, vanilla, oak, candy, and butterscotch. Okay, I definitely took that a little bit from the internet, probably. A little bit of rye spice I get, no citrus. I don't get any citrus on this whiskey at all, not even a little bit. But I do get the vanilla, the oak, the candy, a little bit of butterscotch, like that darker sweetness, I guess. But mainly like a light, sugary candy sweetness. A little bit of oak and rye spice on the back end. Not a big finish. However, I enjoy this whiskey. For $35 or $40, I think it's a great buy. I think, it's something you should definitely look into getting if you haven't gotten it already. And I would think that it's a great purchase to have on your whiskey shelf. So I'm gonna give this a 8.2. I think you should have this on your whiskey shelf. I think it makes for a good rye, especially if you like bourbon. You'll like this. And for the price of 35 or 40, what'd I say? 35 to $40. I mean, that's a great price for this quality of a rye, in my personal opinion. So, thanks for tuning into the podcast this week. I appreciate you guys tuning in on the Michael Jordan episode, aka the sexy episode. Follow me on Instagram at WhoGivesADram. If you like the podcast, subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and YouTube and anywhere else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Check out snootglass.com, promo code WGAD20 for 20% off your entire order. Check out the GrapeVine Media, www.thegrapevinemedia.com. And I'm going to be back next week. So you guys enjoy the rest of your week. All right, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your time with friends and family. Have a good pour. Listen to Who Gives a Dram, and you are on the right path. All right, you guys. Thank you.
Up in New England, that girl sure loved me. We got together and brought things to life. So I did buy her a pretty new diamond. Ask that sweet woman if she'd be my wife. Kind of feeling love songs are made of. With that sweet woman, spend the rest of my life. Before she came along, I was hurting, but at the end of my tunnel, I saw no light. Broke my heart and I can't keep going. Guess I'll just sit here and get drunk tonight. Vows they meant nothing and she ran to a stranger. And with Johnny Walker I'm passing my time. And I asked the Lord, what should I do? But I'm too drunk to hear him tonight. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing. I'm so lonesome I could cry. She gave me back that pretty new diamond. It broke my heart a second time. But I got the last laugh when I pawned off her ring, 'cause it bought me a dime bag and a case of Coors Light. I asked the Lord, what should I do? But I'm too drunk to hear him tonight. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing. I'm so lonesome I could cry. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing. I'm so lonesome I could